Okay, so we're here for 6 rounds on 6 brutal truths high achievers need to hear about their fitness. So we've got 6 different themes that we're gonna have. We're just gonna riff on and talk about and see what comes of it. So let me hit the timer on the first one. Each one is gonna be 10 minutes, and the first one is your body is your business card.
Most people have probably heard the expression like first impressions count, and let's just be real, a lot of that comes down to physical appearance. So whether you're walking in on a blind date, a business meeting, whatever it is, the first kind of impression someone's going to get of you is going to come from your visuals. As much as we might not like to accept that, or we like to say, don't judge a book by the cover, blah blah blah. And there's so much beyond that cover. The truth is, we all do judge people on that cover, at least as that initial bit. And if you are meeting people in, say, a workplace setting, or you're trying to compete, whether it's for the girl at the bar or with another company for their business or whatever it is, trying to make sure every interaction you have, every element of that initial interaction is so important, and making sure that you're coming across as you want to be. So if you see yourself as a high performer, someone who is in control, delivers on important things, high output, all of these kind of things, looking like you are in control of your physique, which I think then does have signals in terms of how in control you are of other areas of your life, is a really, really big thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of research has shown that, isn't it? That within the first 4 seconds, people make their judgment about the other person or the thing. If you've got a physique that commands authority and respect, I think you just increase that status effectively. And as like you said, as much as we don't want it to be that way, we don't want to judge a book by its cover. It's just the truth of the way humans were born. I think it's a very primal and evolutionary instinct that you judge things as soon as you see it. And if your physique doesn't really match what you're saying, there's just an incongruence that lingers in the back of your mind. We've probably experienced this a lot as personal trainers on the gym floor, right? It's like with that line, your body is your business card, couldn't be any truer for a personal trainer, because when you're walking the floor, every moment you're being judged by either potential clients or clients and thinking, am I going to take advice from this guy? Have you had any crazy experiences where you used to think, I'm just not where I should be with my business card?
I can definitely relate to not accepting it early on, for sure. Not that
you didn't accept that statement around.
Yeah, I think not from the side of, we should all look at under the service, but when I came into personal training, I'd come from the more academic side.
Yeah.
So I'd done a degree, done a master's, got work experience during that time. So I came in with probably a bit of a delusion in terms of where I stood, because I thought I've got this academic background behind me. And then I saw other trainers who, we compared the programs I was writing, let's say, to the programs they were writing. I felt like, I could school them on the science, or this is this. But they looked in better shape than me. I wasn't in bad shape, but I was just a decent shape, average gym goer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these guys or ladies were in really good shape, or potentially they had a bit more out there in terms of their personality, or they had these other things that weren't just the X's and O's of coaching or the science behind coaching. And there was a bit of bitterness to me of like, I'm trying to build up my client base. I'm kind of struggling. These guys are back to back and I'm a better trainer than them. But I was just viewing it through this scientific lens. Whereas really when someone actually walked in, they're like, okay, he's wearing the uniform, but if I wasn't wearing the uniform, they wouldn't know I was a trainer. Whereas like some of these other guys, it's like, oh, there's no doubt that guy's a trainer, or at least he knows what he's on about. And once I accepted that, and also then started to shift some of my training goals a bit more towards that, not just for the sole reason of that, but just getting more interested in body composition and stuff. Because I think at the time I was really into Olympic lifting, which is cool, but you can easily be okay at Olympic lifting and look like you don't really touch a weight.
Yeah.
When I shifted more to that, I saw a massive correlation also in terms of, well, one, results of my clients, but in body composition realms, but also just other people wanting to work with me, because you start to look like how they might like to look, or you look like the business card that you want to be handing out, really.
Yeah, I remember there was a point early in my career where I was like the smallest guy in the gym. So I felt very insecure about that, especially because I've always come from a skinny fat background. I used to wear 2 t-shirts going to the gym just to bolt myself out and have that commanding authority, or at least in my head. So I used to always wear 2 t-shirts, and I think I did that pretty much most of my personal training career, because I was always in a gym full of massive dudes. And it was only after like I kind of got over that insecurity and realized that probably in my eyes what an actual good physique was being a bit warped just by the bodybuilding world.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a good segue onto like, well, what is a physique? Like, do you need to be bodybuilder shredded to command authority, or what does having your body as a business card actually look like for for the high performer listening to this episode.
That's a really good point, because I think we're not saying that if you want to do well in your business, you need to look like a bodybuilder, because that's clearly not true. Most people would probably agree that this kind of like good physique, or the physique that most people are after, is relatively lean, not absolutely peeled, but relatively lean with some kind of muscle definition. So a lot of people say like the toned or athletic kind of look, which, as said, comes from a combination of more muscle than the average person, less body fat than the average person, but not taken to like an absolutely huge extreme.
I think when you look good, you feel good. You look yourself in the mirror, you're like, you know what? I look good. You feel good. And as a result, when you feel good, you just have a different aura around you, right? You have that little bit of extra confidence, a little bit of extra charisma. And I know if I go into any sort of business event and I'm looking good, automatic increase in like the way you interact with people, the way you might hold yourself. Whereas I know if I'm not in good shape, or even as simple as like if I've not had a haircut, right? If I've not had a haircut or I haven't done my beard, you just don't feel as good. And if you don't feel as good, it kind of reflects, even in the most subtle ways, that maybe isn't being picked up on, obviously, but there's that intangible transfer of energy.
Yeah. So that's like the internal, how you feel, so then how you put yourself across. But there's also just the signals that everyone else is getting from you. And it's not the fact that, oh, I can see that guy is lean, or that lady is toned, or whatever it is. But it's also what having those characteristics potentially says about that person. Because if someone is relatively lean, or has, some kind of muscle, or has got this toned athletic physique, it doesn't just mean, oh, they look good naked. It also potentially means they're hardworking, they're consistent, because we all know you can't just eat well 2 days a week and then binge the rest of the week and still look good. You got some muscle, that's a slow process. So, even if you're on the more favorable end of like the genetic spectrum, you're going to have to train consistently to look like that. So it shows that you can keep turning up. When you factor in consistency, it's, everyone lives in the real world. Okay, they've got kids, they've got this business, whatever, they're still turning up. That means they're a reliable person. If you're going to business with someone, or you want to work with someone, reliability, hardworking, those are the kind of things that you really want in a person, really, aren't they?
I think also it's like there's a values element of, does someone actually prioritize their health? Everyone says that they prioritize their health. Like, no, you don't meet anyone says, I don't actually look after my health. Whereas when you see someone living and breathing it, I think it says a lot. When I was dating before I met Chandni, one of my top 3 non-negotiables was health. That they don't necessarily need to look like a fitness model or anything like that, but they needed to have health in their top 3 priorities. That they needed to look after themselves. So I know it sounds bad, but I was making judgments based on aesthetics of like, okay, do they look after themselves? They're not like, are they photo shoot ready? Are they fitness model ready? It's more just like,
you'd accept a couple of weeks out, probably, right?
Acceptable. Because if they didn't match that value of mine, I think there'd just be a massive clash. Like, especially with the stuff I do, the stuff you do. If someone didn't really vibe on that level, I think it'd just be a difficult relationship.
Yeah.
Than if you had that experience.
So luckily not. I've been
married for 15 years.
Yeah, about 15 years. So no, I've been lucky there. But one of the reasons why it survived this long, and my wife stays apart with me for that long, is because she accepts that part, and she's on board with it. And she's less extreme than me by quite a way, but it's something that she does value, and I think also just enjoys the benefits that come with being a partner who does value their health outside of the physical side of things, but just energy levels. You don't have these ups and downs. And I mean, even just as simple as if someone's really values their health and their fitness, it means that most nights of the week they're not going to be in the bar, or they're not doing recreational drugs or whatever it is, and
they don't want to go out and do that with you as well.
And so it's kind of almost get a, not just one win in terms of they're fit and healthy, like a positive, but you also get that they're not hungover half the week either. And it's just this whole balance of you actually kind of you avoid the bad stuff as well as adding on the good stuff there as well.
Like, is their lifestyle going to match? I think that's what I was like subconsciously also really looking for is, is someone going to be okay going to sleep at 9 p.m. at night? and eating healthy food? Because it sounds strange to us, but we live in a bit of a bubble. And, for many people, it isn't the case. There's the timer. On to the next one. Why high achievers fail at applying discipline with their fitness?
So I think for most high achievers, I guess the name suggests they're achieving really good things in loads of areas of their life. And so rightly so, they view themselves as really competent individuals, because most things they turn their hand to, they do well. They've probably done pretty well academically. They've then gone into work, business, whatever it is, and they're achieving great things. Potentially, they've got family life on the side as well. So most area of life is going really well. And so they view themselves, as I said, rightly so, as someone who can achieve things, can do things. But it means they can often just go in with this confidence, which is good, but without the systems in place with it to actually implement it properly. It's like, no, I'm someone who can, I don't need to worry about that. I know how to just stay in shape. But the confidence isn't backed up with these other structures around them. And so it just never really happens.
Most high achievers they've nailed it in. This is the one area of life they never nailed. And it's the one area they've always put at the bottom of the list. They've always neglected it. And they've just not been able to crack the code for multiple reasons. And I think a few of them they tend to be prone to using fad diets. I find a lot of them love like quick shreds or quick juice cleanses, everything's got to be quick, right?
Well, they've probably also shown that they can do hard things. So they shoot a short term but intense period. They're like, well, I know I can do that intensity.
Yeah.
And so maybe,
high performers love 75 hard, for example. That thing of like, you do something really hard for 75 days. They tend to fall for that. Sometimes they are highly motivated, but they just do the wrong things. I think that's a big one. The third big one is they tend to be like very on the pendulum. Like they're either all in or they're all out. And as a result, they've never been able to build a system to find that sort of happy medium in the middle. And as a result, they just spin their wheels for years and years, because they'll do a 6-week sprint, then they'll forget about it for the rest of the year. They'll start again in January, 6-week sprint, and they just repeat that cycle over and over again. And then I think what happens is they have a massive trigger moment where they can't do what they've been doing for years anymore. So they might have a health issue, or they might see someone around them have a health issue. They might see the pictures of themselves and think, fuck, that's not me. Or they might have a comment from one of their kids saying, oh, daddy, you're looking fat, or something crazy like that. And I think that's when it spurs them into thinking, right, what I've done so far has not helped or done anything sustainable. Maybe I need a new tact. Maybe I need to change strategy. And I think what works well with something like what we do is we put in the systems in place that they've not had it before. We add a bit of structure into that area of their life that they've not had before. Approach it in a way which gives them a structured methodology to go along with results along the way. Because these people tend to be results driven, they like the speed of the results, and then they can see the journey ahead, and it kind of runs parallel to stuff they do in their career and their work. We give them strict non-negotiables to follow, various different KPIs to hit, checkpoints to hit. And I think that methodology and framework works really well for a high achiever to just execute against it. And once they have the right structure, they tend to be really good executors and can see it all the way through if they accept that they need help.
The stuff that's made them so successful in their business ventures, like you said, like the KPIs, the non-negotiables and all these things, it's literally just, as you said, applying that to this area of their life. Once they get on board with that and they buy into it, then the execution is normally pretty streamlined, and it's kind of...
What do you think the biggest systems are that a high performer needs in their life to execute from like a training, nutrition, lifestyle perspective that has the most bang for its buck?
I think really common is kind of similar to what we said around the fad diets, being like these intense efforts. Probably maybe the type A nature of these kind of people, they get drawn to that. So it's this new lifting program or this new cardio protocol, or really want to do like these VO2 max specific sessions or whatever it is. Where it's like, actually, what we need to do is not necessarily, not saying you do need to work hard, but it's not that we need to take this more and more and more. It's more like, let's just find something that you can be consistent with across the board.
Yeah.
That also factors in kind of actually controlling your nutrition as well. And it's not just these 2 or 3 times a week, you know how to take it somewhere really hard in a session, but it's keep going with your exercise, and obviously we'll guide with that, but then making sure that you're controlling your sleep so that you're not having crazy cravings and hunger throughout the day. You've got a system in place with your food, so that's not going completely off track. Because I think these people will smash it, then also nail a pizza later on. And it's probably just ordering the priorities, rather than just working hard the whole time, really just looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think they like to chase shiny objects. And the biggest one is like program hopping.
Yeah.
I used to be really guilty of this. You probably were at some point as well. And when you realize you don't need new things, you just need to double down on the same things. It's kind of like what we talk about in business. The most of the results are found there. And if you give that analogy to someone who has had a successful career or a business, I think it works really well. It's like if something's working and you're seeing 20% increase in it, like with your lifts, for example, why would you change it and go into a new program when you could just double down on that and get another 5%, another 10%, and next thing you know, you're doubling your Romanian deadlift as opposed to trying to learn a new movement and starting from scratch again, which is what happens. The same context can be applied in their work as well. I think another one from a systems perspective is eliminating decision fatigue. I think that can really help for people that are really busy with family, career, and different responsibilities, because as much as people like to think that they like variety, I'm pretty sure you'll know better than I will that don't most people eat pretty much the same thing regardless anyway.
Yeah.
But when you tell someone, hey, try a structured meal plan where you take the thinking out and just focus on execution and eliminate the decision fatigue, they actually find they have so much more bandwidth and they're able to execute at a much higher level. But it's because you've now told them to not have all the other stuff that they feel that they need to fight against it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realize 3 weeks later that they actually feel so much more free. It allows them to be more adherent to the game plan.
All of these people are combating, have different roles in their life that are constantly fighting each other for their time and their headspace. And so the more things that fall out of those top 2-3 priorities in their life that you can just pull down from that spec, put it onto, like, automate it, put it onto autopilot, the more time, physical time, but also headspace they've got for work, family, health and fitness.
What's the biggest system for you that keeps you on track, that you implement in your week?
The biggest individual one would be meal prepping.
Weekly or daily?
So I do week. So I eat 4 times a day. 2 of the meals are done for the week. So lunch and dinner just cooked in a like batch cooked style, separate out into portions, into Tupperwares, into the fridge. Then bam, all I have to do then throw it onto a plate, into the microwave. I literally go up, carry on working for the 8 minutes till it pings, come down, get it out. And then the other 2 meals are just very quick and easy to prepare. So you're looking at 5 minutes max to prepare those meals. Not only is it there ready, so I'm not having to spend the physical time actually making the food, but also the headspace is just, I go downstairs, I'm not thinking, oh, what do I feel like? Oh, shall I have this? Or shall I have, what have I got in the cupboards? I'm just going, pulling out a box, putting it in there. I might even still be thinking about work during that time, or family, or my fitness, or, you know, things that matter more to me than that. And so I'm getting what I need from the food, but without taking away or minimally taking away from the areas I really want to be kind of focusing on mentally and time-wise as well.
What happens if you don't do it?
I've got quite a few plan Bs, so it doesn't.
Well, what's a good plan B? That's a good one.
This is actually something me and Shweta talked about in the RNT community the other week. Actually, was having things in the cupboard so it doesn't have to go from amazing to terrible. So for me, I'll always have mixed frozen veggies in the fridge. I'll always have some microwave rice in the cupboard. I'll always have some tinned fish like tuna and mackerel in there. Either something really badly goes wrong, or I've missed meal prep, or whatever happens, within the same amount of time as it would take to cook I don't know, chicken goujons and chips, or, you know, like order an Uber Eats, or, you know, eat some crappy food. I can microwave frozen veg, what's that, 3 minutes, microwave rice in 2 minutes, bam, while I'm doing that, and putting the mackerel on the plate. It's not the nicest thing in the world, but it ticks the boxes, keeps me on track. So yeah, and whether that's yogurt and berries, there's loads of quick and easy meals you can kind of have as a plan B in that kind of approach. But having the meal side of things automated is an absolute game changer. Then the other thing, and this is probably a bit more dependent on how variable your schedule is, but just having times blocked out for the things that matter to you. So never just going with the approach of, I'm going to try and I'll see if I can find time, because anyone listening to this isn't in a position to find time. You have to make it. Otherwise, it's just, there's other things that are going to swallow that up. So having your training blocked in, same way you've got your business meetings blocked in. If you need to be proactive with steps, making sure that's blocked out.
That's the end of the round.
Yeah. I was about to drop a killer point, but
you're
no, I'm just making that up.
Okay, next round. I'll figure it out myself.
Yeah, so I think that ties into the thought of, I'm a really competent individual, so I know I'm going to be able to do this. I think where this is a mistake is that it's not that you haven't got the intelligence or like the ability to figure it out, but you don't have the time and headspace to give it the required time. Because yes, it's I'm not going to belittle what we do, but it's not like it's not curing cancer, figuring out how to not overeat, you know, but it's, do you, along with everything else, have time to put towards it? At the moment, no. So it's like, okay, what are you going to pull back on? Probably already not sleeping enough. You probably already want to see your family more. You're already not looking after your health as much as you want. And in your eyes, you probably can't pull back on work right now. So where is this time meant to come from for you to be able to do that? As humans, we will have this feeling when it comes to our health and fitness or training the gym. It's as if, oh, I should know how to do that. You know, everyone goes in the gym and they feel, maybe not everyone, but I think there's a large portion of people going to the gym, they feel like, oh, it's working out, I should know how to do this. And it's probably improved maybe a bit over the years now, but actually there's no reason why you should know how to do it. You know, automatically, we're not programmed to know how to do everything perfectly, especially in the modern world where there's all this like Uber Eats and all of this, the convenience we've got. We're not set up for it, and so we need to learn to do it. If you haven't got the time or the energy or the headspace to teach yourself, which most people don't, then you're going to need to go to someone who already knows it so they can guide you and teach you along the way as well.
Most high achievers will pay for childcare, they'll pay for cleaning, they'll pay for all these other things that they want to outsource and take out of their decisions on a day-to-day perspective. But when they think about the health and fitness thing, like you said, I kind of know what I'm doing because everyone's been exposed to some sort of diet in the past. So they think, oh, it kind of just less calories and you just got to eat less food. Yeah. So they do crazy stuff and try and figure it out. Whereas I think for high achievers, they've just got to put away the ego most of the time. You just got to set aside the ego and accept help. Most of them would accept help with a career coach to help them go up the ladder if that's what they want to do, or a business coach. So it's like there's no different to having a health and fitness coach, someone who can install the right system for your lifestyle, the right structure for your lifestyle, and then more than anything, keep you accountable to it. Because the biggest challenge most of them will have is consistency, falling off when life gets in the way, work gets busy, kids get sick, whatever it may be. So it's the accountability of knowing you've committed to it, and you pay attention to what you pay for as well. So whilst you can have accountability with your buddy or your wife or your husband and all these sorts of things, when it comes down to it, are you really going to hold your standard? And I think if you've committed to something, you just internally have said to yourself, right, I'm letting myself being held accountable from someone else. So I should, well, hopefully you should see some results. But that is the reason why if you speak to these people who get results with us, what almost kept you from starting this? A lot of the time it's just, I thought I could figure it out myself. I thought I'd try loads of different things, and you're just wasting time and money and energy thinking about it. Like so many people spend time thinking about what they're going to eat, thinking about their weight, thinking about the clothes they can't fit into. Whereas if they just pull the pin and accept the help, they can get to the results so much quicker. And when you don't have to think about all these things, you don't realize how much headspace you have. It's been swallowing up over the years that you've been having this problem.
And I think it's just being honest with yourself that it's what you're doing hasn't been working. Unless something changes, it's not suddenly going to work. I've never really thought of the cleaning analogy, but it really clicked for me because when we got cleaner, it was basically us accepting there's certain jobs around the house we just weren't going to do. And we'd always held off because we're like, oh no, but like we can physically do them. Yeah. But just the reality is we weren't. And when we finally were just like honest with ourselves, like, hey, like we're not doing this. And just being honest, we're not going to start, not because we're too good for anything, but just the way our lives set up, like we're not going to pull back on other things to clean the toilet. And then we outsourced it. And it's not the best decision ever because actually
now it's clean.
It's getting the job done. Yeah, we actually got a clean bathroom. That's definitely hit home with me. I think the ego thing is also really interesting because if you can get the right balance with the ego, it can be absolutely amazing because you need to let the ego come down enough to accept that in this area, you're not an expert. And in other areas that people likely are already, they're using an expert in another one. But if you've got a bit of an ego, which I think most high performers have probably got on some level, and I'm not saying that bad way at all, I think it could be a really good thing, that then little bit of ego really works well with accountability, I think. Yeah. Because you don't want to go back to that person having not fulfilled what you've said you're doing, especially, one of the qualities going back to on the previous points before of like what looking good or looking in shape says about you. I think a massive part is I follow through with what I say I'll do because I'm going to go on this diet or I'm going to train or I'm going to do whatever. Your body is then a representation that, okay, that person clearly does follow through with it. So being able to go back to your coach or whoever's guiding you through, whoever's providing that accountability, having backed up what you say or potentially not is a massive driving factor in actually making sure you do these actions as well.
Yeah, and then you find that they really accelerate in their progress and really accelerate in their results as long as you have that fine balance of the ego. What happens when the ego stays up too high?
If the ego stays too high, it can end up basically being you're just fighting it the whole way.
Yeah.
And I think
like a clash, right?
I think of myself more probably like some of my later years at school where because you're not listening to the teacher or you're not accepting what they're saying, you end up getting nothing out of the class. And you're like, well, you've still spent an hour in the class with them, but you haven't even taken the knowledge off the teacher. It hasn't actually moved you forward in your exams. But you're too, in my case, probably just young and dumb or whatever to do it. But even if it's further down the line, your ego's too high to be able to just take that on board or accept the responsibility or accept that you needed to do things differently next time, whatever it is. And you end up spinning your wheels because you're just too proud to kind of accept that. But as you alluded to a few times, once that's in a good spot, the execution with this type of person is normally so good. Yeah. That's just like the bottleneck. And it's like, look, just accept that this person, you've come to this person for help. If you can trust them, that's where the buy-in is the biggest thing. If the buy-in works, then that's the bottleneck gone. And it's almost normally just like amazing results in the bag.
And then you just got to stop them from doing too much or saying, hey, should I do this as well? Should I add an extra hour of cardio and all these sorts of things? I'm thinking of myself here. But, if you think about my own journeys, I've hired a running coach recently and I could easily just piece it together. I could probably figure out a way to do it. But at the same time, I know I'm going to get better results if I just let someone else do the thinking. And for me, whilst I could probably go and sit there and research how to build a marathon plan, I don't want to think about my fitness. That's the one thing, like, especially we have a fitness company. The last thing I want to think about is sitting there on a Sunday night thinking, oh, well, what should I eat this week? How should I train this week? I'd rather let someone else do that heavy thinking so I can just do the execution. And I think that's the best way for people who are busy and who have goals outside of fitness, which most people listening to this do, should take that approach of like, yeah, that area of my life is dealt with. Someone else is calculating all the macros, is calculating the meal plans. I'm just going to look at it and just take it on board and execute.
Plus, everyone knows it's easier to be rational with someone else than yourself, especially anyone who's coached anyone, because I could say coach you, and I'd probably make different decisions than if I coached myself, because there's just this emotional link in with yourself. You're not going to be as rational. You hear a podcast on whatever new technique, there's this part of you, so, oh, should I maybe do that? You're tempted. When you're outside of that, you're the coach in that rational position. You've got your eye on the bigger picture. No, that's going to take us off in this direction. This is working really well. And, you said about that, the shiny new object, the program hopping, it can eliminate so much of that as well. So yeah, having that person who not only frees up that headspace for you, but has that rational outlook as well is massive.
Yeah, only yesterday I messaged with our running coach saying, hey, a friend of mine is to open up a VO2 max testing chamber. Do you think I should do it next week? No. That solved that decision, because I was thinking of doing it. I was thinking, this is a great idea. I can find out what my VO2 max is. Maybe it'll change the programming. Makes no difference, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's that one less decision to come on. Anything else on figuring out why they shouldn't just figure it out?
I guess basically, if you love the process of reading loads of stuff, spending loads of time on it, go for it. But if you spent so many years out of shape, not looking how you want, not feeling how you want, your blood work's only getting worse, do you want to risk elongating that even more to hopefully stumble across it? Or do you want to just get it done in the most efficient way? Especially when I think health's the kind of the really thing you're chasing there, or is a big factor in your motivation. If you got high blood pressure, it's not great. But the longer you have that high blood pressure for, it is worse and worse and worse. Like for every month that you have that high blood pressure, you're in a worse position. And so spinning your wheels or wasting your time by not.
There we go. Next one, data versus intuition.
So I would say that most high performers are very data dominant and they love their numbers. Most often, I'd say these kind of members will come in already tracking loads of stuff, normally way overkill and actually just clouding things with so many numbers, but not just say calories and macros and potentially steps, but they're looking at sleep data, heart rates, all but going into now with blood work stuff as well these days.
We get that we hear that often. Like HbA1c numbers are XYZ, like BP's at XYZ, resting heart rate XYZ, and these are people who are coming to like initial consults with those numbers. And they're very well read and have done their own sort of research into their own blood panels. That's coming up more and more.
Some of these things can have a good place, and it's probably just finding a balance that gives you some direction, because stuff like some of the blood work can be a really good measure and a good starting place, and then something that you can track progress on in the same way that photos are and scale weight are. But what you want to avoid is having so much of this data coming in that it's kind of just clouding things, or potentially not all of the data is particularly useful or particularly accurate. And so stripping that back, but also just being in the real world as a coach, acknowledging each person's personal preference, because some people, if you literally just strip it back to the bare bones, most coaching I would do would be fairly bare bones in that respect. But I know some people want a bit more than that. And so it's striking that balance of not getting everything clouded while also letting them get excited about some of that stuff. Because sometimes tracking XYZ during a cardio session makes it more exciting. So you're more likely to do the cardio session, for example. And so finding that balance there, but just, especially with high performers, I would say it tends to be not letting the data go on overdrive, really.
I remember when I first started RNT, the data I used to look at was initially a Word document which said current weight, previous weight, current waist, previous waist, and then maybe 2 or 3 lifts, previous week, last week, and then that's it. And then there was just the notes, and I was just looking to like what people were actually experiencing and telling me, and using that to drive the decision. But then obviously as things progress, now we look at more daily metrics to see, because I think that was probably too bare bones. Same time, I did get results, but at the same time, it was very bare bones, and I was probably lacking a lot of information, because every week I'd have to ask, so what about this? What about this? Did he stick to it on this day? But I think where it would be interesting to discuss here is where you use data versus the dream that everyone has of intuitive eating. Because then there's this element of like, I want to be data driven, but I also want to eat whatever I like. Like there's that constant battle, right, between looking at the Whoop metrics,
Yeah.
if that's the thing, or Garmin or whatever, but then also being able to eat whatever you like and finding that balance. Like, is there a balance? Do you have to go to one before the other, and how do they sort of dance with each other? Maybe
So
share your experiences on this.
in terms of my ability to track and then eat intuitively and things, I think, well, most of us probably grow up intuitively eating slash eating what mum gives us. So I did that, and then I kind of went down a few fads and things early on, mainly based around kind of low carbs, no carbs after certain times, all this kind of stuff. Through, I think, what a lot of people actually go through, and I think it's probably the stage that a lot of people listen to this probably at now, where I might have some numbers that I go off and I'm pretty accurate, but I'm nowhere near as accurate as I think I actually am with it. Things like, I used to have, at one point, I had a bit of a kind of a meal plan that I used to follow, and I'd come back in the evening after finishing. I'd had most of my normal meals in the day, and then when I'd come back from evening PT sessions, I would have some cashew butter before then going to bed. And it was meant to be 5 teaspoons. So I'd worked it all out initially with the numbers, and it was all adding up right and blah blah blah. But I was just doing teaspoons. Anyone who's ever actually weighed peanut butter knows that the teaspoon that you naturally do is 5 times what it should be on the scale. So if you ask me, are you following these numbers or following this plan? I'd say, yeah, I'm following it like every day or 6 days a week. Reality is everything was off.
Yeah.
You know, I might weigh some things, but not other things. And I found that then when I started to properly track things and actually was really accurate and actually consistent, so not 5 days a week, not 6 days a week, actually 7 days a week, at least for certain periods, the results I got just went through the roof compared to what I was doing before. And so that small increase in perceived precision paid off so much. That then gave me a really strong foundation to have the ability to pull away from that as needed over time. But I found that trying to do that before I really knew how to be consistent and be accurate just led to things just me massively overeating. I wouldn't say I was, I would binge at times. It wasn't like a really destructive cycle, but if I had kind of off-plan meals, it wasn't just eating something off-plan, it was overeating considerably as well. But yeah, once I got good and consistent, being accurate and following a plan, that gave me a really strong foundation that I was then able to build on by getting used to tracking less often or eating out without things going crazy and things like that. So I had to go to, and I see this with a lot of people, you have to go to one end of the spectrum to get really good at the basics before you can then go to the other end of the spectrum. Yeah. And if you try and go to that intuitive side too early, there's no foundation there, and it's just, you're just basically eating how you were before you did this kind of health.
What's interesting is everyone loves to track data outside of their nutrition. So everyone wants to track their sleep score, their steps, their heart rate, all these things, but they don't want to track their calories or their macros. Whereas that's actually the thing that you need to track more than anything, because everything else can be amazing, but if you don't track your calories, you're wasting your time. The harsh truth is, for the first year, probably 2 years, you do need to be very diligent in tracking your macros in order to build that hidden calculator in your head. Because all intuitive eating is basically we have a self-programmed calculator that's running without us realizing. We can just cue into hunger cues. We can realize when we're full. We know when we're overeating. We know when we're under-eating. But it's happening because we've done all that programming. You know, we've been like developers coding that thing into our brain. But that comes from years of tracking. If you short-circuit that path, I think you end up in a dangerous situation where it's just going to be that death by 1,000 cuts scenario back to the starting line. And I had a really good analogy once of like, you track your expenses and your income, right? It's exactly the same as tracking your nutrition, your calories in, calories out. And if you treat it like the financial statement of your body, you will over time learn how to manipulate the numbers and how to read the balance sheet accordingly to make more gut-driven decisions in the future. If you just go straight to intuitive eating, I think it's just going to be an absolute disaster. So I think for anyone listening to this, if you're tracking all these amazing metrics around your nutrition, focus on nutrition first. And then the other stuff, like I'd say I never tracked any of this other stuff before. It's only now my goals are more performance driven that I'm actually interested in my heart rate, my sleep quality and my body battery and all this stuff that Garmin's got me addicted to looking at. Like, I'm always checking my phone, my Garmin app now. Whereas back in the day, all I was obsessing over was nutrition. But now that's something I don't need to worry about because of those years of building up. And I think that's where I'd say most people actually want to be, is where they're not tracking, they don't feel restricted in any way because it's all sort of happening in their heads.
A lot of the stuff that people want to improve, like I want to track my blood sugar, potentially sleep quality, heart rate, all of these things. Easiest way to get them better in most cases is to drop some body fat and get fitter, especially if we zone in on the nutrition side. Sort out your nutrition and all of those things will, as a byproduct, improve, rather than jumping over what nutrition, because let's be honest, that's the hardest part, and trying to find this new shiny thing. Like, how many people are now tracking continuous blood glucose monitors outside of, like diabetic situations, who are trying to find an easier way out than just having to track calories and control portion size. That's really hard. Or maybe is this like an easier way, or it's just, and maybe that's not even a conscious thing, but it's just trying to find this quicker or easier way. And the reality is you're just gonna, this is a wall you can't go around. You just got to go through with nutrition. But when you do, all of these other things you track as a byproduct are just going to improve anyway.
Yeah, you can do all the stool tests you like, the blood sugar tests you like. Ultimately, you just got to eat less food. And the best way to do it is to track your nutrition. Would you say you're now intuitively eating?
I have the ability to. I don't, because it takes up too much headspace. Even now, it's just, there we have it.
Kind of links to this one is the all or nothing mindset. We can also throw in automation into this as well. So all or nothing mindset / automation. Where do you want to take it?
High performers, often they're working on a big project or something like that. So they know how to, as I said earlier, go really hard and, working hard or like really committing themselves. That's not an issue with this style of person. And as you touched on, if you get the buy-in right, actually it's a case from a coach perspective of pulling them back and reining them in sometimes. But they either go 100 miles an hour, or it's, okay, that isn't working because I've gone down the wrong route or whatever it is. So now I'm just going to pull away. And then they've done the 6 weeks on, they do the 6 weeks off before they listen to the next whatever podcast comes out or whatever thing comes up on their Instagram feed, and it's, all right, I need to try this now. They hammer it for 4 to 6 weeks, doesn't work, or other life just comes up and means that they can't go. So it ends up just being this always at 100 miles an hour or nothing. Yeah. And ultimately, the person, I guess that is the whole turtle and the hare analogy, isn't it? The person who's just chugging along at, say, 80% the whole time ends up going way, way beyond the person who's at 100% or nothing. And yet no one gets in shape in 6 weeks. So you have to find a way that you can just keep being consistent.
I had a friend of mine who was doing dry January, and about 3 weeks in, he said, I'm feeling amazing. I can't believe how good I feel. I'm doing more deals than ever. I feel my mind feels so clear. So I said, why don't you just always do dry January? Like, make it a thing, like just drink less. He just didn't reply to that. And then last week he said to me, you know what? One of my lessons recently is I like the pendulum swinging. I like going from dry January to having a couple of beers every couple of nights, because I like the experience of being clean and then feeling not clean. Now, I don't know what the excuse was, but I think I picked up that he hasn't broken that all or nothing mindset. Mm-hmm. And I think for both of us, we probably experienced that with our nutrition. Is for years it was you're either on it or you're just completely you're off the rails, and anything goes. What was the moment for you that finally broke?
I think I just kind of just made a commitment to myself that, okay, let's just try, at least for this time, of just being on it all the time. But I think about it more. I think it was also a time where I shifted probably to, in my head, just trying to find a way that didn't feel so restricted, because then it allowed me to, let's say, nutrition, follow it 7 days a week. Yeah. Because up to that point, even if I wasn't hating it every single day, there was always a feeling of restriction around it, where I was eating something that wasn't quite so nice, or there was just a bit annoying, or I was a bit hungry, or whatever it is. Once I finally just found a combination of food, meals, prep styles, whatever, it just made it work well in my lifestyle. I then didn't feel restricted, so I didn't actually feel a need to go off track. And then events might come up where you do eat differently, but you're also going into them not being like, oh, thank God, now I can either eat different food or I can hammer it. It's going in and it's been like, oh, okay, it's another meal. Whereas before it was always just getting through, and it was like, oh, then let's say Saturday night or something, it was like, oh yeah, like I've earned this, or but then I'll be back on it tomorrow or something. Is that kind of mindset that just set me up to mess up even more in those occasions?
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience where I was like, I want to find foods that I enjoy, that taste, that feel good, like digest well, and are easy to prep. Once I found that combination, then it was rinse and repeat. And then I also realized I like having more calories in the evening. So rather than having equal size meals throughout the day, and then if I go out, I'm having massive meals, and then I'm feeling like I've overdone it, so then I have to cut back the next day. I just thought, why don't I just eat lighter in the day and just have a bigger meal in the evening? So all the time now I have big meals in the evening, but it works perfectly. So if I go out, it's very unlikely I'm gonna, most of the time I undereat, because my meals at home are quite big. And I just like to relax in the evening and have most of my calories there. And I found that allowed me to just be more consistent. And now, I've been able to maintain my body weight similar range for the longest period of my life. And I think one of the reasons is just having that sustainable setup that allows for socializing, traveling, and all the different things that usually throw you off track. Now the hardest challenge is actually to keep the weight on.
Yeah.
But that's probably activity related more than anything. But that took years and years of refinement. I don't know when it clicked for you.
Yeah, no, it took way too long looking back now.
Oh,
I see members achieve it way, way faster. But I think also when we started, there was still probably this mindset around, I mean, I think If It Fits Your Macros was around, but it was nowhere near as kind of big and stuff. So there was still definitely, at least places I was looking, the people I was talking to.
Chicken or rice.
It was all around good foods, bad foods more. So yeah, it was your chicken and tuna, rice, potato, and then, you know, trying to avoid any fats, any kind of sugar delay, all of this kind of stuff, which I think probably didn't help with it. But I also just thought in my head, okay, like this is meant to be quite hard. You're not, you know, some of the meals aren't going to be tasty, especially being a student as well. I was eating tuna out of a can like every day for years. Like coming back now, like I said, it's in my cupboard if it's like a plan B for here and there. Whenever I eat it now, I'm like, how did I ever used to do this every day? But yeah, I used to eat horrible combinations and just meals that I just really just didn't like at the time. But I was like, oh no, this is me being good. I'm ticking the box.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel every day like you're having to put in this effort and use this motivation, there's only so much you got, and at times you are just going to break. Whereas now, I would say my nutrition is probably more consistent and like accurate than it was 10 years ago, probably rather 5. But the perceived restriction I have is less than it's ever been. Less than when I was a teenager and I first heard, oh, you shouldn't really eat much carbs. I was eating my mum's cooking and then trying to convince her to do less carb. You're like, I was feeling more restricted then than I do now, and most of my stuff's weighed out now. So it's like, this is where I think the perception thing's such a big thing, and the only way to get to that level of accuracy with that low perceived restriction, or any level of accuracy but with low perceived restriction, is going through, as you said, that experience, gaining that knowledge and that experience, finding what you like from a practicality, taste, goals perspective, all of these things that then kind of works well for you. Because it's not that hard to figure out the numbers you need to hit in terms of calories, macros, but how that looks, as you said, meal frequency, how big each meal is, times of the day, the foods, do you batch cook it, do you do this, do you do that, whatever, these kind of things, the practicalities, that's what really matters in terms of making it a long-term thing.
Yeah, it should just feel really, really easy. Do you think you can have it all? The fitness, the career that you enjoy, and you can have the relationships, and you can balance all three? Because most high achievers tend to just focus on 2.
Yeah, you could definitely have it all. I mean, I think you're a good example of that. You've got successful business, got growing family, and you've got, you know, the health and fitness side of it. But it's not just going to happen. Like, you have to be intentional about it, and you have to go through some of these phases. You're not going to go from being out of shape and maybe having the 2 other areas, and then suddenly 6 weeks later having it all perfect. That's why we said having to go through the structure and the more tracked side of things to be able to get you to that point. It's the same way when you set up a business. Probably have to eat some shit in the first few years of business to then get to the point where, well, probably still working really hard if you've got all this stuff, but to really reap the rewards of all of that hard work. But I think also just on this, the amount of people, and I fell into this category 100%, who come into the process saying, oh, I'm an all or nothing person. And it's such a self-defeating mindset to have, because you're not. You believe you are, and you have been up to this point. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I was someone, if I have ice cream, I'm eating the tub. It was almost like part of my identity.
Yeah, it's a big identity issue. Yeah.
As soon as you get rid of that and you just you don't have to be that person, you realize, actually, I don't have to be all or nothing. That's not, I'm chosen to be all or nothing. I've learned to be all or nothing. But now I learn to be not all or nothing. 90% is better than 0%, which sounds so obvious. But, you know, if you have that all or nothing mindset, you kind of just blank that out for some reason. You just enjoy stuff more as well.
Do you think you like the process or outcome more, fitness?
Definitely the process now. Yeah, I would say I definitely got into it. I think everyone gets into it for the outcome because you want to build muscle or be stronger or whatever it is. But what I get out of health and fitness on a day-to-day basis way exceeds what I get out of it in a yearly basis in terms of return on results. So the enjoyment I get, the impact, the positive impact it has on other areas of my life is so high. Whereas, like, realistically, how much muscle am I going to have built in a year's time?
What benefits do you feel like you get? And I want to keep this one rolling. We could roll this one into the next one.
I guess going all the way back to the beginning, like with there's a confidence element. You feel like I'm not under no illusion I'm Brad Pitt, but like you feel like you look good as a version of yourself.
You're pretty Fight Club shredded year round, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe I'm Brad Pitt from the neck down, but I'm sure Angelina Jolie would.
Definitely, probably. I don't know who's more shredded, you or Ivan.
I would have thought Ivan.
He's probably give him a good run for your money now, though, right?
I'm getting closer. But I think he's probably got more muscle on me as well, to be fair. So
Yeah, you're still struggling in that medium, aren't you?
yeah, I was thinking that's the tightest these sleeves have been. So yeah, the confidence thing is definitely one thing. I think the self-respect and like, I don't know if self-love sounds a bit weird, but and maybe this is just like getting older as well, but I've probably never been as happy with the person I am as I am these days, I guess. And that doesn't just come from the physique side of things at all. But I take a lot of value from knowing that I can depend on myself. And not just, I don't mean I don't need other people, but if I make a promise to myself, I'm going to do everything I can to go through with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, if something happens and there's a valid reason not to, I'm like, that's okay. But if I make a promise to myself, I'm gonna really give it a go. And I really focus now, probably just maturing on the effort I put into something rather than the outcome. And I find as long as I can know that I'm putting effort into the main priorities of my life, don't really care too much about the outcome. Not that I don't care, but I don't need to worry about them. Yeah. So as long as I'm working hard on my health and fitness and things, the results that I get will just be what they be. I never really worry about whether I'm a good or bad parent or not. Not because I know I'm perfect by any means, but I know I'm just trying my hardest. And so even if there is stuff I could do better, I'll try and learn and get better. But there's no point stressing because I'm trying my hardest at work. As long as I can sit with myself and know that I'm doing what I think's right. I don't need to worry that, oh, what should I have done this? Should I have done this? It's like, as long as you know you're putting the effort side in, that helps me know that I'm just someone who I can depend on and I like. That's probably the most powerful thing I've taken from like this journey as a whole.
The journey is in what, like fitness?
Yeah.
It's been your journey to self-love.
Yeah. Maybe we'll clip that and
yeah, beautiful. Yeah. That's the interesting one around the process and the outcome, whether, because I've been thinking about it a lot. It's like, what do I enjoy more? Is it the outcome I get from fitness or is it the process? I think the outcomes come so far between now that you can't rely on, I'm not going to get any more muscle.
Yeah.
How much leaner do I want to be year round? Probably not much more. I guess I'm getting good feedback loops from running at the moment.
Yeah.
That won't last forever. So it's just the case of like, I can't imagine my life without it. I can't imagine my life not being in shape. The idea of not being in shape just doesn't cross my mind. And I know from past experiences, whenever I've deprioritized my fitness, I just end up going back to that skinny fat version of myself. And I never want to look like that.
Yeah.
But I'll be skinny fat at 80 kilos. And it's just not a good look.
Yeah.
So I think there's always an element of, I never want to look like that. I don't want to feel like that. So I'd rather just enjoy where I'm at. And luckily I found a sustainable way to stay there, which makes it easy. I just love challenges, as you know. Like I just really love like doing something makes me question if I can do it. Like, can I start Muay Thai? I didn't mean to sign up to a fight in 12 weeks, but it just happened to be and hold my own. And I managed to do that. And now it's like, can I run a sub 3 hour marathon on my first attempt? I don't know if, we'll find out for the results, but I back myself 100% to do it just because I've done the other bits, in bodybuilding and stuff. There's a genuine joy of like that journey on the process that I do love. I think it just continues to shape how I am and my own self-talk because of fitness as well.
Most people get into fitness because they want a result. The people who then stay in shape long term are the ones that find a love for the process along the way. Yeah. And it may not be as intense in certain areas as we've got potentially. And it may be that it's not in the gym, it's doing yoga or it's swimming or it's whatever else, but there's some love of the process. And some of it's maybe in the kitchen even, like, because they get into exploring new healthy recipes, or I think like hiking is something that seems to be getting really popular amongst the members and things.
Yeah, it can be anything,
So it can look completely different, but if there is a love for that, then that's just what not only removes the restriction side of it, but also gives you like this enjoyment element as well, which if you want to do something long term, it can't just be, I've got to push myself through. It's got to be something that you actively want to do, really, isn't it?
I think the self-respect one is another big one. I couldn't imagine the idea of saying to myself, I'm going to commit to 3 runs a week, 3 workouts a week, eat well, and then not do it. Yeah. That really eats at me. If I miss a workout and I know I've missed the workout because I don't know, I couldn't be asked, there's nothing worse that day knowing that feeling. There's just you know what it feels like. It's horrible, isn't it? It's there's an element of like, if I say I'm going to do it, doing it just reinforces that what you just said of just doing hard things and
that's follow through. That personality trait I think is the biggest like turn on or turn off of a person, and not like turn on in a sexual way, but more just someone you want to associate with is someone who is going to follow through with what they say. Yeah. And on the flip side, I've just got no time for people who, and not just talking about fitness perspective here, but just I'm going to do X, and then they're not reliable on it.
Yeah.
I find it painful just listening to them because their words mean so little. I just think, why am I even bothering listening to you speak? It's So yeah, even outside of the fitness thing, that characteristic I think is just such an important one of just being someone who other people value.
This is the thing. It's like if you're a high achiever who's always done different diets, every year you're telling someone you're trying something new, you're announcing a new this challenge, that challenge, and you're always in that hamster wheel. Yeah, soon it just becomes nothing. There's no value there. Whereas if you just get in shape and figure out how to stay in shape once and for all, you never have to worry about it again. And you could just be that guy. You know, we had someone the other day who said that they went to Jamaica. Went to Jamaica and they said, my wife's friends.
Oh, yeah.
My wife's friends were telling their husbands how hot I looked. I was like, that's exactly what's happening. Because that comes back to the whole, that judgment or that deep desire that every man probably wants to feel attractive by their partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every partner, to some extent, wants to feel attracted to the other partner. It's a primal instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're there on a holiday and, let's face it, you're a slob, you're not gonna feel that good, are you? Either yourself or like, you know, you're looking at your partner thinking, it happens, right? And maybe something that's not nice to hear, but it's the reality. That's what people think deep down. I've been on holidays where I've not felt in shape, and if it doesn't feel nice, right? You wear the t-shirt, and this is especially back in the day. You wear the t-shirt, you hide in angles, you hide in photos, you position your deck chair right next to the pool so you can just slip in. Yeah. Whereas now you can't keep my top. I can't keep my top on, right? Yeah. I'm the guy there, like, oh, Channy, can you just take a picture of me in this light? Can you take a picture of that light? And everyone else looking at me must think, oh, this fucking guy. Who is this guy? But that's kind of like, I like that feeling, and I don't know if you're the same, but there is a sense of like pride that comes with just knowing that you're in shape, and I think there's a sexual attractiveness that's also a big part of this, and I think for most high achievers that might be, you know, something that they've not considered, or they have considered it, but it's been so pushed down and so like trampled upon, they've, you know, yet to awaken. So when I saw that message from one, I remember saying that, I thought, I wonder how many other people are thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
probably a lot of wives thinking, I wish my husband looked like that.
yeah. And as a husband, that's the last thing you want your wife to be thinking about.
Exactly.
You know, like,
right. That's probably the dialogue going through a lot of people's minds.
Yeah. And the truth is, as you progress in age, obviously, you know, you're a teenager or you're in your early 20s, some people are more attractive to others, but as you age, the discrepancy of how a certain age can look just varies so much. Yeah. Most 20-year-olds look 20, right? Or at least within a few years of it. Once you get to 40, you can look 55 or you can look 30. We get a bit older, like if I go pick my son up from the school and stuff, sometimes me and my wife, oh, how old do you reckon that person's parents are? Or how old do you think that person? And we're all probably in like a 10 or 15 year kind of range. But I'm sure some people are the same age but look 10 years older or 10 years younger. And
yeah.
Some of it's probably to do with like, you know, how you do yourself up, the clothes you wear. But let's be honest, most of it is due to what's underneath the clothes and how you've looked after yourself from that side of things, for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. And that's a wrap. If you want to look good naked and you want to feel sexier without your clothes on than with your clothes on, then you know what you need to do. And you'll also look good as you get into your 40s and 50s. So yeah, that's a wrap on the 6 harsh truths, brutal truths high achievers need to know about their fitness.